The clock on my bedside table glowed with red numbers. It was 9:47 p.m. Every night at this exact time, my world would shrink to the size of my phone screen. It was a ritual born from heartbreak, a ceremony of one. My thumb would hover over the saved voicemail, a tiny audio file that held the last piece of him. Liam. His voice, captured in digital amber, was all I had left. I would press play, and the world outside my small bedroom would simply fade away. The hum of the refrigerator, the distant rumble of a passing train, it all vanished. There was only his voice, warm and familiar, filling the silence that had become my constant companion since the accident. His message was short. He was running late. "Hey, love," it began, his voice a low, comforting hum that I could feel in my bones. "Just leaving the office now. I've got to make a quick stop at Mum's, but I'll be home soon. Don't wait up for dinner." I had memorized every inflection, every pause, every breath he took between words. I could picture him perfectly, probably shrugging on his coat as he spoke, a small smile playing on his lips. This was our life, these simple, ordinary messages. They were the bricks and mortar of our shared existence, and now this single recording was the only thing left standing. But I could never listen to the end. My finger would always stab the stop button just before his final words. He always ended his calls the same way: "Love you, goodbye." That last word was a door I couldn't bring myself to open. A goodbye would make it too real, too final. It would mean accepting that he was truly gone, that he wasn't just stuck in traffic or delayed at his mother's house. So I lived in this loop, a three-quarter version of his last message, a world where he was perpetually on his way home but never quite gone forever. It was a fragile, self-imposed prison, but it was the only home I had. The accident had been swift, a brutal tearing of the fabric of my life. One moment I was chopping vegetables for a dinner he would never eat. The next, I was standing under the harsh fluorescent lights of a hospital, a kind-faced doctor telling me things my mind refused to understand. Grief was not a wave of sadness, it was a thief. It stole my breath, my appetite, my ability to see color in the world. It took Liam, and in his place it left a hollow ache that settled deep in my chest. This voicemail was my shield against the crushing weight of that emptiness. It was a lie I told myself every night, a fragile whisper that kept the silence at bay. The day my phone broke was just like any other ordinary grey Tuesday. I was clumsy, distracted by a memory of Liam laughing in the kitchen, and the device slipped from my grasp. It hit the tiled floor with a sickening crack that echoed the shattering of my own heart. The screen was a spiderweb of black, lifeless glass. At first there was just numb disbelief. I picked it up, my hands trembling, and pressed the power button again and again. Nothing. No flicker of light, no comforting hum. No access to the one thing that tethered me to him. The silence in the room was suddenly immense, deafening. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed its way up my throat. It was a primal fear, a desperation I hadn't felt since the night of the accident. It wasn't the phone I cared about. It was the message locked inside its broken shell. That voicemail was my lifeline. It was Liam's voice, his promise to be home soon. Without it, the silence I'd been fighting so hard to keep away would rush in and consume me completely. I felt a wave of nausea. I had lost him once, and now it felt as if I was losing him all over again, the final echo of his existence wiped out by a moment of carelessness. My grief, which had been a dull, constant ache, sharpened into a raw, frantic pain. The carefully constructed dam I had built around my sorrow burst. I was no longer just grieving his death. I was grieving the loss of his voice. The world felt unstable, unsafe. Every small thing was a reminder of what was gone. The empty space beside me in bed, the second coffee mug gathering dust in the cupboard, and now the dead weight of a broken phone in my hand. It was a cruel trick of fate to have the last piece of him snatched away so casually. The loss felt physical, like a vital organ had been torn from my body. The days that followed were a blur of frantic activity. I took the phone to 3 different repair shops, begging technicians to perform miracles. The motherboard is fried, they all said, their faces a mixture of pity and professional detachment. The data is gone. I called the phone company, my voice cracking as I explained the situation to a patient but helpless customer service agent. She informed me that voicemails were stored locally on the device, not on their servers. There was no cloud backup I had forgotten to activate. Every door I knocked on was closed, every path a dead end. The digital ghost I had clung to had vanished without a trace. My last hope was a long shot, a whisper of a possibility that I clung to with everything I had. Liam's parents. They lived an hour away in the quiet suburban house where he had grown up. I called his mother Carol, my voice small and shaky. I tried to sound normal, asking if I could come over to look for an old laptop of Liam's. He was always backing up his files, a habit I had once teased him about. Now it was my only prayer. Carol, bless her heart, didn't ask too many questions. She just said, "Of course, dear. Come whenever you like." The drive there felt like a pilgrimage, a journey toward a relic that might not even exist. Walking into Liam's childhood bedroom was like stepping back in time. Everything was exactly as he had left it years ago. Posters of his favorite bands on the wall, a collection of worn-out paperbacks on his desk, a layer of dust coating every surface. It smelled of him, a faint, lingering scent of old books and clean laundry. The air was thick with memories, and for a moment I could almost pretend he was just in the next room. His parents left me to my search, giving me the space I so desperately needed. I felt like an archaeologist carefully sifting through the layers of a life cut short, searching for one specific artifact. I spent hours in that room, my heart pounding with a mixture of hope and dread. I went through old boxes, stacks of CDs and drawers filled with tangled cables and obsolete gadgets. I found photo albums that made me smile through my tears and old letters that made my chest ache. Finally, tucked away in the back of his closet, I found it, a sleek silver external hard drive. It was one I recognized. He used to call it his digital attic. My hands trembled as I connected it to his old laptop, the machine whirring to life with a noisy groan. I held my breath, praying it would still work. The suspense was unbearable as the drive's contents loaded onto the screen. I navigated through folders named University Projects and Photos. Then I saw it, a folder simply labeled Audio. My heart leaped into my throat. Inside there were dozens of files, random recordings and song ideas. And then at the bottom of the list, a file named with a string of numbers and a date. The date of the accident. I clicked on it, my finger hovering over the play button. This was it, the original file, raw and untouched. The thought of hearing it again, whole and complete, was both terrifying and irresistible. I pressed play. His voice filled the quiet room, clearer and closer than it had sounded on my phone. "Hey, love," he began, and the familiar words wrapped around me like a warm blanket. "Just leaving the office now." I closed my eyes, picturing him, letting the sound wash over me. I listened past the part where I always stopped, my body tense, bracing for the impact of the word I had feared for so long. "I've got to make a quick stop," he continued, and then the words changed. They were not the words I had memorized. They were new. They were different. "I'm not actually going to Mum's," he said, and my eyes flew open. There was a smile in his voice, a hint of playful conspiracy. "I'm going to pick something up, something shiny. It's for you. I was going to wait until our anniversary, but I just can't." He paused, and I could hear the soft rustle of his coat. "It's the one you pointed out last month. I hope you love it as much as I love you." A breath, a soft chuckle, and then the words I had been so afraid of. "Love you, goodbye." The message ended, leaving a profound and ringing silence in its wake. He wasn't going to his mother's house. He was going to buy my engagement ring. The truth of it settled over me, not with a crash, but with a gentle, heartbreaking beauty. The final piece of his story wasn't an ending, but a beginning. It was a promise of a future that never came to be. The tears that fell were different this time. They weren't tears of pure, desperate grief, but tears of overwhelming love and sadness, all mingled together. He hadn't been saying goodbye to me. He had been telling me about our forever. The weight in my chest didn't disappear, but it shifted, transformed. In that dusty, quiet room, surrounded by the ghosts of his childhood, I finally found a measure of peace. The pain of his loss was still there, a scar that would never fully fade, but now it was accompanied by a new understanding. His last message was not a tragic farewell, but a secret gift, a testament to his love that had waited patiently for me to be ready to hear it. He was not just a man on his way home from work. He was a man on his way to propose, his heart full of hope and love for me. And in knowing that, in finally hearing his full goodbye, I felt I could, at last, begin to find my own.